Welcome to the Blue Collar Worker once again. My name is Dennis, and welcome to the third and final part of the Henry Nowak story. I have been very clinical in all my information up to now. I've had my reasons because I wanted to remove the mess from factual information. Now, this last one is the mess. What happened next? Wow. So, obviously, we know Henry Nowak's killer was convicted, the sentence has been passed, the murder trial is over. But the story didn't end there. In many ways, what happened next was a much, much bigger story. Yet, simpler to tell, no matter how messy it is. Stay tuned. So, I've given you the update. Now, this story expands right outside of Southampton. National media, social media, then expanded to international commentary. Politicians got involved. Public figures. Thing is, it was no longer a local tragedy. So anybody who felt they had something to say on the matter just came out the woodwork. And there was positive and negative versions of that information. Personally, I'm going to, for a moment, just stick with positives in regards to sticking up for a young lad who got murdered. Elon Musk was one. Donald Trump was another. These are outside the country. Inside the country, before you knew it, House of Commons was talking about it. All the politicians that believe in this nation were talking about it. Those who don't believe in backing our country weren't. And that created an interesting divide. I said, bigger story, much simpler to explain. And because of that, the inevitable happened. It becomes a question of believing in one's country as opposed to not. That wasn't what the whole story was meant to be about. But that's what it started to become, was people of this country second-class citizens. So, one of the things to talk about here is the protests. Notice my grammar was stuck there for a second. And it's not a question of whether the protests were good or whether they were bad. It's more about the fact that they happened at all and what made people react like this. I mean, what were they angry about? These problems are still ensuing. What concerns were they trying to tell everyone who would listen? I mean, let's be honest. You don't need to agree with someone to discuss something. I mean, that's the point. Otherwise, you're in an echo chamber. I have friends that have completely different political views to me. We'll chat and take the mick and God knows what. But the thing is, we have discourse. We can talk. And in this case is you have a bunch of people going and protesting about two-tier policing. You have people talking about how certain people now feel like a minority. You have people feeling that they're not being heard. Not being heard. Now, if you don't give people some way, a proper platform where they feel they are being heard, well, I think Charlie Kirk said it best. He always said he wanted discourse. He wanted to debate people. It's why he went to college campuses, because he believed keep talking. The moment you stop talking is when violence starts. And there's a lot of people, they feel they're talking and mainstream media is not letting it through. That is where everything that followed it happened. Right, so we can, for a moment, and awkward, talking about the two-tier policing debate. I mean, many people believe there is. Why they believe it? Unfortunately, whether it be on paper or on video, there just seems to be more and more examples of what can be argued as two-tier policing. See, what we have here, okay, is this divide between mainstream media and social media. Now, social media has its left-leaning people, of course they do, but right-leaning people is where you'll find them on social media. Reason being is because when it comes to mainstream media, crickets, nothing, can't hear a thing. It is literally left-leaning only. Now, there's a big problem there, theoretically. And I say that because I don't really want the Online Safety Act to start pointing at me. Because at the end of the day, I'm still trying to be a voice for everyone together who have shared values. Notice what I'm saying here. I was watching some of the Southampton protests, and I clearly saw, now this is personal eyes on a video, of someone videoing the protests, and the police turned on him, beat him to the ground. Now, whether you call that two-tier policing is one thing. Whether that's questionable policing, that's another thing altogether. But whenever right-leaning protests are abound, suddenly, out of nowhere, poof, there's a counter-protest. Left-leaning protests. And they are causing problems. They are being masked up. They are actually even clashing with the police. But once they're arrested, kid gloves. Kid gloves. That's part of what two-tier policing is, what they believe is happening. Now, normally I give 3 minutes to any given point, but unfortunately on two-tier policing I'm gonna have to just go a little more. Not too much, but a little more. See, the two-tier policing debate is, in basic, the feeling that those who are born and bred British of certain descent are being given much more rougher treatment and a less of a voice than someone who is either of another nationality and colour or just of another colour. And when such a situation as a murder occurs, and it is the case of somebody of colour killing someone, this is not alleged, remember, someone killing someone, I hate the word unalived, killing someone, and that person is white, people are getting very irritated. In this particular case, it's not someone who is of Muslim descent, and it's not someone who is considered from another country, because at the end of the day this person was a Sikh. But nonetheless, because the call came through as racism, when the police turned up, they had a frame of reference straight away, which is what people believe they should not have had. Have that in the back of minds, that's what someone's complained about, but not believe it before they have the evidence. Because then this is where everybody else is complaining. In this case, kid dragged out and he has all these wounds, stabbed, and he's not the victim because someone was racist, apparently. No. That is going to get people irate. And if they don't get that person, that platform to speak on, this is what happens next. This part is one of the most uncomfortable, but also one of the easiest things to talk about, and that's the knife question. Because we have one question which is about the knife as a knife, and we have the other question of the fact that it is something called a kirpan. Now, kirpans have a very specific exemption, and that is for Sikhs that there's a small one, just like that, about that size, that they can have concealed on them. It can't be extremely sharp, but they are allowed to have it concealed. Now, this is a religious exemption. I spoke to a Sikh who, whether or not he is, I would consider him an elder, because very wise, younger than me, but very wise. And he's not exactly happy with this situation, because he says, I don't carry one, but the reason we do carry one is it's tribal, to be short, because this goes back before India had a government and had a police force. People believed they had to fight for themselves, and a kirpan was designed as a last line of defense, a concealed weapon on their person, that if their life is absolutely in danger, they can bring it out like a dagger. That's what it's for. That's it. But because it's cultural, they have an exemption in this country to keep one on them. Now, whether you feel they should have that right or not, that's a different question. But what Digwa had wasn't a little one like this. It was a big one like this. And he had it across his chest. Huh. You figured out why he had one, and it had nothing to do with culture, as in his history. It's not why he had it. Why he had it was a Sikh version of being a gangster. Now, there's a reason why I went gangster. It's not to say he's a gangster, but he was showing off. Basically doing the big I am. And again, talking to the particular Sikh that I did, he was a little... This is frowned upon. It is. Because what gives him the idea can only come from two places. One, he's in a group of people that do it, and so he does it with them. And two, and this is the bit that surprised me, is some older Sikhs carried a big one, which the guy I spoke to frowned upon as that as well. So whether he got it from his peers or whether he learned it because a member of his family did it, I'm not sure we'll ever know the answer to that one. But it meant that he took the peewee and carried something that was far in excess what he's allowed. But the reason why he was able to keep doing it is part of this issue where people talk about two-tier policing, because it's the word racism. The moment somebody goes, oh, you're being racist. Right. So there's the problem, isn't it? Any police officer who actually wants to do his job and say, yeah, that's not going to happen. First words come out of their mouth, oh, you're being racist. And that's his career gone. Because people are afraid to do their job now. Being called a name is now so serious that people can't do their job. It's the state of our lives, isn't it? Food for thought. Now, as I've been saying, this is part 3, and this is where all the awkward questions come out. Because up to now, before this chapter, everything has been pretty clinical. This, being the 3rd section, has been a complete and utter mess. Because now, the question becomes public trust. Because of the mess that was the entire Nowak situation, we have the protests. Southampton, whoa, my God. I don't even know what to say, because protesters were clashing with the police, and you don't know whether to say, go home, or to say, hang on, police, aren't you being a little not quite right here? And it just gets worse, because any snapshot, anything that happens, it all gets blown out of all proportion. And then came into the part of it all is that those who got arrested was R.A.G. Hermer inflating the charges. All questions, all brought up in social media. The commentary is unreal. The anger, very real. So then does become our question: do people trust our institutions? We've got the police, media, government, courts, oversight bodies. That's now the real story, isn't it? We can talk about MSM, the mainstream media. Are they being biased, left-leaning? The police, are we looking at two-tier policing, left-leaning? I could go on all day with this, couldn't I? There seems to be something forgotten here by those we're supposed to trust. And that is they're meant to be impartial. They're meant to uphold the law, not make the law fit as and when it sees fit. You know what I mean. And there still is a lot we don't know. A lot that isn't finished. You'd think Novak's family have had enough by this point. But it isn't done. You got the IOPC, their investigation is still ongoing. We have yet to see what that's going to turn out like. What are those future findings? Further information may emerge that hasn't yet been brought to the public eye. There also is, and I'm being very, very careful here, potential further criminal cases to be brought forward. As far as I'm concerned, not against Vikram Ziegler, that's done. But there's what stage his family's been involved in this. Because one of the arguments is that his mother hid the bloody knife. But what we can't figure out is that what she decided to do for him, or is that what he pressured her into doing? I don't know the answer. Stuff we're still going to find out. Going to find out if any of the rest of the family have got anything coming towards them. I don't know. But more sticky stuff is up and coming. And when you take all of this into consideration, you got to go, okay, and are you going to trust those who are now taking these steps forward? Do you trust them? Because another argument was, I just remembered, that I've heard that's been broadcasted, is that the police wanted, before everything came out about Henry Nowak, about how sweet he was, that they wanted to paint him as a racist. And the CPS went, oh, no, 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 no. We're not going there. There's nothing wrong here, and you're not adding that in. If this is found to be true, oh my God, how much more is there? We're going to have to wait and see. So let's kind of straighten this situation out now. We need to kind of tighten up all these loose strings flailing around everywhere. Let's get to Henry Nowak's family. This recenters everything. Not the protesters, not the politicians, not the commentators, the family. Remember what they've asked for. Remember what they've actually said. Finally, Henry Nowak was believed. They've asked for people not to be violent. They've asked for calm, which is great. It's dignified. I would wonder how I would react in that same said situation. Honestly, anybody that tells you what they know they would be like, they're telling you porkies, because nobody does. Until you are in a situation that is unbelievable as that, no one can say what they would do. They can say what they would hope they would do, but no one can say what they would do. Wait till you're in a position like that. You have family, you think about how you would react if one of them got murdered, and the situation in which it happened. So remember how dignified Mark Nowak was when he spoke to the cameras, with his daughter there, if I remember rightly. Henry Nowak was believed, finally. But should it really have had to get this far for that to happen? So let's bring this to a close. Let's bring it all back. The boy at the centre of it all. Over the past 3 videos, we've looked at the murder of Henry Nowak. We've looked at the police response. We've looked at the protests, the debate, the politics, and the questions that followed. Some people will focus on the policing. Some will focus on the knife laws. Some will focus on the protests. Some will focus on the trust. Some will focus on trust in institutions. But before all of that, there was an 18-year-old student walking home. And whatever conclusions people reach about everything that followed, that is a part that should never be forgotten. Don't ever let him be forgotten. Thank you.